I love being able to come home for the weekend from the front lines and see the Sea of Galilee, this lake that now it looks like it continues forever when you look that way. And there's so many people that are calling for a Palestinian state. And in this time, in wake of the massacre, and people say, did we win the war? I say, yes, we did win the war, but the battles definitely still continue. The battles in the media on the 8th front still continue. I was just recently in one of the hospitals, one of the many hospitals who have so many injured in it. And I was able to meet some of the soldiers who are recuperating, recovering, healing. And there's so many. And for some, it will take years. Some don't make it. Some continue a life with many injuries that will remain with them forever. But when you think about this call for a Palestinian state, it's really like it's offensive. There is a Palestinian state there called Jordan, right? There was a Palestinian state called Gaza. I mean, no Jewish people went in there anymore. We left in 2005, but did we get peace? No. We got one of the worst, horrific massacres on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Innocent peaceniks, peace-loving people who would do everything just to help the Gazans on that border got massacred, and they wanted to massacre all of us, to genocide all of us, and they would love to do that, and they continue to teach their children that. They haven't changed, and they think suicide bombing is like the highest goal of life. Our prime minister, he said, it's clear to me we're not just fighting Hamas, we're not just fighting Hezbollah or the Assad regime before they collapsed. We're fighting the militias in Iraq as well, and the Houthis in Yemen, and even Iran, and the Badr force in Iraq. And he said, we did win this war. He says, we won it, but it never ends. He says, like when you have to cut out cancer from your body, you may take it out, but some might still come back. And certain types of cancer, if you don't deal with it, you'll die. So we took out the cancer. Yet you still have to deal with these remnants. And I think of this kingdom of light versus kingdom of darkness. That's what it comes down to this Shabbat. As Shabbat begins, everything stops in Israel. We all enter into Shabbat, the Shabbatitude we call it. And so before, back in Genesis, humanity lived in this higher dimension with light and glory and fellowship with Elohim, Garden of Eden. But Adam and Chava, that's Eve in Hebrew, She heard the serpent's whisper that your eyes will be open, v'yiftechu enaych, right? You see this throughout the Bible, like in a positive way. It's with the servant of Elisha when he's like, open his eyes, v'niftechu einav, and he saw the fiery chariots defending Israel, the fiery chariots. But your eyes can also be open to a lower dimension, and that's what happened with her, to shame, fear, ego, jihadism. A lower dimension, like below the animals, a fractured reality where light doesn't even exist, a portal of darkness, And so humanity has to fight against that, has to step into the light. The sages call it olamot hatuma, the unclean realms, right? And so Book of Enoch talks about how there's fallen beings who are polluting nations, deceiving nations, taking over territory, doing a lot of strategy to do that. And the Tanakh talks about, it also talks about Sheol in Proverbs and Psalms 139. But there's also realms, dimensions above. And I want to talk about the Israel of higher dimension. As a soldier, I recognize things have happened. Israel's been sustained in a way throughout history that's it's just not natural. There's got to be some seraphim, there's got to be these burning ones, these angels, these messengers, Michael the archangel, the Prince of Persia, Prince of Greece. Those are bad ones, and there's good ones. And there must be something. The Apocrypha talks about nations rising and falling based on their allegiance to what's right. I know I'm getting super deep. It's Shabbat, but and you see this nations fall into the abyss. Entire strong empires fall because they choose not to stand with the higher consciousness, with God's plan, which includes Israel right at the center. Yes, all the way to the Euphrates, all the way to the river. It says the Nahar, not the brook, Wadi al-Harish. It says to the Nile, to the river of Egypt, not the brook, in Genesis. So that whole land, that is called Greater Israel, and that is the dimension. And there's literally going to be a future temple, Ezekiel, and it's literally, are our eyes open? V'yiftechu enechem, Will they be opened, right? Do you recognize Israel just as like a natural, what do you think of Israel just as a political entity or something? Or do you recognize the centrality in the universe? I know I'm going really deep, but I'm going to finish with this. Are you listening to the whispers of the serpent? Are you going to the nether dimensions, the lower dimensions, or are you living in a higher realm, understanding where the light comes from here, comes from the Galilee? This is the place where the light touches upon them. And yes, from our capital, Jerusalem. Psalms wrote over there in our capital, in Psalms 84, "Behold, O God, our shield, and I look upon the face of your anointed." This is a place of anointed ones. Guys, take your choice to stand for Israel. Shabbat Shalom.